Today we're going to talk about 5 more 1990s movies that deserve the reboot treatment. Let's freaking go. Okay, so I made a video about 5 movies from the 1990s that I thought if they're going to remake movies, they should remake these 5. Just so we're clear, I don't think any movie should ever be remade. It's not necessary to reboot or remake a film. Making a sequel 20 years later, sure, but, you know, come up with your own ideas, Hollywood. But we all know they're going to, right? Like, they're going to remake all these movies. So if they're going to do it anyways, I feel like they may as well be movies that I want to see get remade. So that's why I compiled these lists. So this is my second list, and I'll probably go back to the 80s after this, but right now I'm still in the 90s. So here's 5 more movies from the 1990s that I think could benefit from the reboot treatment. So number 1 for today, Darkman. Do y'all remember the film Darkman? It's a Sam Raimi directed superhero film starring Liam Neeson. Now, it has a lot of dark elements. It has a lot of noir elements to it, but Sam Raimi's he's his own person, man. He's his own type of director, and when he gets a hold of something, like, he did a good job with the Spider-Man movies, but he hadn't quite settled into that yet. When he made Darkman, he was still doing his Sam Raimi-ish slapstick, goofy kind of stuff, and there are a lot of scenes in this film that I think suffer because of it, but the film in general needs a bigger budget, and it could definitely use updated special effects and probably a tone shift. So a little bit about it. So Darkman was actually a fantastic mix of horror, superhero action, and a revenge thriller. It has a cult following. A remake could definitely refine the story, though. I would say enhance the gothic visuals, deepen the characters' tragedy a little bit more. And with the current superhero craze that we've got right now, Darkman could be the perfect anti-hero film that would sort of stand apart from the Marvel DC crowd, right? So take something like Darkman, lean into the dark aspect of the title, Darkman. Kind of make it look a little more gothic, little grunge. Kind of like the movie Seven, right? Like, wouldn't Darkman be great if it looked like the movie Seven? Like, that'd be awesome. Enhance the tragedy of the story a little bit more, and then just make it a bigger film. It's, you know what? The Batman is a good example of what Darkman could be, I think, if it were made today. But go ahead and keep sort of the big budget feel about it and put some big action sequences in there and sort of make the movie bigger than what it ultimately ended up being. So I say, if you're going to remake a movie, give us a new version of Darkman. Next on the list, No Escape. Now, No Escape is a great prison action thriller, right? It has such a good idea too. A prison colony on an island where there's literally no escape, and they break off into these 2 different factions that are constantly at war with one another. It's a really good idea. I like the sort of dystopian, futuristic elements to it. I think Ray Liotta did a great job. We didn't get to see Ray Liotta in a lot of stuff like that. He was typically like a bad guy or playing something that leaned more into his acting abilities, but to see him as an action star, I liked it. I thought it was believable, and I would have loved to seen it again. A little bit about the film, though. It's a dystopian prison action film, of course. I think the concept is great, but I think it seriously lacked the budget to fully realize the world. This is another one of those movies that, if given a bigger budget, you could look at something sort of like Battle Royale meets Escape from New York type of vibe. Brutal action, high-stakes survival, and throw in some deeper character development, especially with the side characters. There were a lot of interesting side characters in the film. I think you could go a little farther with that. No Escape would also be a great limited series or a series, just a series in general. You could even have a different protagonist each season with something like No Escape. It doesn't absolutely need a remake, but go ahead and do it. I mean, if you're just picking out movies, it came out in 1994, and you could certainly do a lot worse. Next on the list, The Shadow. Do y'all remember The Shadow? It also came out in 1994. It starred Alec Baldwin. Now, The Shadow it's a pulp era sort of superhero film. It did have style, but it also kind of suffered from its campy execution. Even the Shadow himself, I don't know if they used a freaking wax figure, animatronic, But whenever he was the shadow and he had the glowing eyes, you could tell that it was fake. I like the way he looks. He's wearing the same thing that Darkman wears, which I don't know if that's a coincidence or not. I haven't looked that up yet. A modern remake could reintroduce the shadow as a dark psychological action film in the vein of the Batman, again, just like the same thing I said about Darkman. It could embrace the supernatural horror elements and the character's moral complexity a little more. A new version could finally do justice to this iconic but underutilized hero, y'all. So just think about this sort of man, and what's the tagline? Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? I didn't really get that from the film, right? I like the time period that it takes place in. I think having it back then, keeping with the film noir elements, you've got this dark sort of man. He's wearing a trench coat and he's wearing one of those hats, I don't know what they're called. You know what I'm talking about, though. He's got like the burgundy thing over his face. His eyes are glowing. He's like running around in the shadows doing superhero-y things. It's sort of mystical, sort of supernatural, maybe he's disappearing and reappearing and stuff like that. I think that The Shadow could be a really good period superhero film. Like, why not? Go ahead and do it. Go ahead and remake something. You don't always have to remake something that was just such a massive hit. Take something like The Shadow that didn't really hit the mark and say, hey, I want to improve on this a little bit and give it a reboot. So I think The Shadow would be a good contender for the list. Next up, and people aren't going to like this, by the way, but I'm doing it anyways. 1997's Event Horizon. Now look, when Event Horizon came out, it wasn't popular. It didn't go over with audiences because you didn't really know what you were going to get. There was a science fiction crowd and there was a horror crowd, and it was trying to be in both worlds, and it ultimately leaned into horror, I think, more than science fiction, and I think you lost the science fiction fans because of that. It is a terrifying blend of sci-fi and horror. Event Horizon had a chilling premise but was hampered by studio interference and a rushed final cut. A remake could embrace the cosmic horror elements fully, making it a psychological descent into madness with Lovecraftian terror. With today's advancements in horror storytelling, this could become The Shining in space. Now, yes, lean into the horror aspects of this film. I know it's a space science fiction film, kind of like Alien, but if someone said pick a genre for Alien, like what would you pick? Most people would probably say science fiction, but the truth is science fiction films are supposed to be more like Primer or Moon, with Sam Rockwell. Films in that vein, like science fiction is supposed to be sort of Twilight Zone-esque. It doesn't mean, just because the Marvel movies take place in space doesn't mean they're science fiction films, okay? Science fiction is its own sort of smaller genre, and there are a lot of examples of what makes a great science fiction film, but Event Horizon should have just been a horror film that takes place in space, I think, because of what it's about. I mean, look what it's about, right? They send this ship out into the abyss. It comes back having been to hell. And now it's like getting in the ship itself. It's getting into your mind, controlling you, and realizing your worst fears. You'll actually end up in hell because of this ship, trapped in torment forever and ever. And, that's really Dark Ages hell that we're talking about here, y'all. But if you're going to do it, I mean, like I said, go ahead and do it. I'd like to see a film like that actually do well. And I think it could in today's world because people give horror a lot more respect now than they used to. And Event Horizon, had it came out today, would have gotten the respect that it deserved. Speaking of respect that it deserves, the last one on my list for today, I just can't believe this wasn't a huge movie, and it wasn't. Catherine Bigelow's Strange Days. I talked to a lot of people that haven't even seen Strange Days. They don't even know what I'm talking about. It came out in 1995. It stars Ralph Fiennes, Angela Bassett, Juliette Lewis, Tom Sizemore, Michael Wincott. Everybody's great in this film, y'all. It's such a good idea. What the film is about is it's a cyberpunk thriller about recorded memories and virtual reality, and it was way ahead of its time, okay? A remake of Strange Days could fully explore the ethical dilemmas of technology, media manipulation, and personal privacy in a world where reality is increasingly distorted. So think about that. I mean, we film everything. We are doing this right now anyways, right? You've got John and Jane Doe suburbanites walking around with their cameras, filming their everyday lives, and people sitting down on YouTube and watching it all day long, especially kids. Imagine if it was a more immersive experience, right? Take somebody that you like or that you follow, you're just watching them in their everyday lives, but you can plug in, you can hack in, I think they call it jack in the film, wire trip, and you get to see it from their point of view. You get to feel everything that they felt and experience their life. What people would definitely do that, but that film is more relevant today than it was when it was made in 1995. Like, it's so far ahead of its time. You would essentially wear this little get up on your head and go around and record your life, and then people would buy that card from you and they would install it in their device while they're wearing that thing on their head, and they would get to see, feel, experience what you did. That is such a great idea. There was a scene in the film where a guy that didn't have any legs was experiencing somebody running on the beach, and he could feel it, and that's so cool, right? So it's not only about perversion, which it would be. Let's be honest, it would be about perversion, but it's ultimately a serial killer thriller. There's a killer that assaulted a woman, and he sort of put the thing on her head and made her watch what he saw while he was doing it to her. That is dark for a film, for a science fiction film, but then it's also very politically motivated as well. This film came out before the Black Lives Matter movement, but you would think that it was made after that or during the height of that because of the messages. But I think that a lot of it stems from sort of the Rodney King case and things that happened in the 90s, the fires, the riots in LA, and all that kind of stuff. So they sort of wanted to tie this in there. The LAPD is sort of vilified in the film. You've got this rapper that ends up getting killed by the LAPD, and then there's the thing with the serial killer, and there's the stuff going on with Ralph Fiennes and his past and his girlfriend, and that's the other thing, y'all. You can take a film, you can have good writing, and you can convolute something so much that you lose your target audience, you lose your core audience trying to make the film better. And I say, pick something, pick a theme, pick a through line, and follow it through all the way to the end. There's nothing wrong with that. Catherine Bigelow is an outstanding director. All the performances were great. I would hate for someone to get a hold of this and tarnish like they did with the Point Break reboot. Dude, the Point Break reboot was the most unnecessary piece of cash-grabbing garbage. And I feel like the only reason it was made was so the studio could keep the rights to the film. That's something that they do after X amount of years. They have to do something with the property or the rights come up for sale. I think that's why they did that with that Point Break reboot, because the movie was it was not good. Someone was trying to go so far away from the original concept with what they were doing and where it took place, and I just didn't feel it. There's just no way to replicate the Bodie and Johnny Utah of the original. And even Gary Busey's character was perfect in that film. So I agree, some things should just be left alone, especially if you're just going to screw it up. And the new Crow reboot that just came out sort of did the opposite. Had they tried to make it like The Crow, I would have hated it. I would have said, man, this is ridiculous. But it was nothing like the freaking Crow. It was The Crow unrecognizable. I feel like maybe they were trying to show respect to the original and to Brandon Lee's legacy, so they just made it completely. It didn't. If you took away the names Eric and Shelley and took The Crow out of that movie, it would have been any random movie. I agree that some films should be left alone, and a lot of the films that I recommend really should be left alone, like Strange Days, Event Horizon, even Darkman. You know, these are cult classics. These have become greater as time went on. But if Hollywood is going to do it anyways, and they are, remake some things that we would want to see in today's world, right? That's all I'm saying. Take something that's more relevant today than it was when it was made, something that was possibly ahead of its time, put it in an era where it fits, film it to the budget that it deserves, and show it the respect that we deserve, and you can make a great reboot. Think of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake that came out with Jessica Biel. That is a great remake. Think of the Evil Dead remake. The Evil Dead is one of those cult classics that people just love for reason. I love it, but when you go back and watch it now, if you watch it for the first time in today's world, you're going to be like, dude, this movie is horrible. What, did they shoot this on a freaking home video camera? The special effects look horrible, but the love that went into that film, y'all, it's so it's ingenious, right? And it was Sam Raimi sort of learning to hone his craft. So when I heard that the reboot was coming out, I was excited for it. I was a little nervous for it. And now, in my opinion, the Evil Dead reboot, the 2013 reboot of Evil Dead, pound for pound, is the best horror film ever made. And that's my opinion, but I truly believe that. So I look forward to the next Evil Dead films that are going to be coming out in the franchise, and I look forward to them continuing that story. But as for now, these were 5 more 1990s films that, if Hollywood's gonna remake movies, why not remake these? Don't forget to follow me if you like this kind of content. I don't mind if you follow me. Stalking is okay too, you know? I mean, if you message me, if you're a chick and you're like, that dude's handsome, I wonder if he's single. I'm not. I'm a married man. But, you know, so none of that stuff. But if you just want to talk about films or something, or if you have any recommendations, I'd be glad to take them. If you're looking for somebody to write you a screenplay, guess what? Your boy's a screenwriter also. So if you need something, give me a holler. I'll send you a sample. Thanks for watching Total Rewind. And until we meet again, Snoochie Boochies.